How's it going, YouTube? Welcome to the Cosmic Ray channel. I'm your host, Cosmic Ray. Let's see if I can do this. I've done this many times, and we'll see how this works. So currently right now I got my headphones in, so some of you already know what that means. Don't know, hopefully I'm not talking too loud, but we'll see how this works. Alright. So this is kind of like the Cosmic Ray experience slash story time of Cosmic Ray slash my spiritual awakening story. I've done this many times. Let's see how far I can go through. If you ever see me looking down, I'm using like a tablet right now to help music to go through me. Something that works really well with me when I do my channeling, as well. If I wanted to share certain things, I'm kind of somewhat, I guess I say, afraid of sharing. My higher self kind of just takes over it and I just go along with it. There are certain things I'm like, whoops, I said so this, whoops, I said that. And you may hear me interpret things in the third person. And if you do, my apologies that it looks weird to you. Or if you're someone that I know looking at this and probably think this is kind of different. But that's okay, because you guys know who I am, true to my core. So first of all, I love you. Now, I felt like part of this I have to go through by talking about, just like most of you had 3D jobs. I've been at a job for about more than 10 years of my life. And sometimes you start realizing the mundane things. You start going through these things of life where you start just going through the motions, where you just start doing everything and it's like the same thing over and over and over again. And it's like you realize there's got to be more to this. There's got to be something, right? Something. I'm going to go a little sideways on certain stories because you'll start to realize when I start putting everything together, that it will start to make sense. And man, sorry, I'm just excited right now. Woo! Okay, so hold on. My ancestral guides, my angels, my animal spirits, the inner outer dimensional vibrational outline people, my spirit group. Just want to say thank you for this moment of life. Woo! I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Okay. For a while, I've been trying to not know why, but feeling like I have to dive in the past. I didn't know what it was. I know like what my heritage is, but I wanted to find more. Like there's something more I needed to know. Like people have known that they're dying, and these people were part of like they're the ones who knew much of like my ancestry. And I realized like when that started happening, something like I needed to know. I needed to find out where everything from my bloodline, not just of who I was, is just more of I wanted to know to our core, where did everything start, kind of thing. And I know what's going to find those on like on the ancestry website. It's just one of those I need to know. Like I know I'm Algonquin. Like I know I'm with my Japanese heritage who I'm like aligned with, and I know with my past, in a sense, well, I can tell you now with my past lives where I was and who I was and whatnot. There's just something I really needed to find out. As I was going through this, just I've had where I was laid off, and I had time to like how do I say? I had time to not be around a 3D job. I had time to be away from the stresses of work. I swear I had manifested this whole layoff thing because I kept asking, in a sense, not really God, but just my own core self of like, I need something different. Like I can't do this anymore. I started having physical ailments of using the restroom. I found other things like there was something wrong with me. And if you know about my past, like doctors and dentists and other things, where let's just say I've had horror stories, which I could probably share with you guys. But it was just one of those things where I didn't want to go. I just want to work. I have family, got things to do. Like I can't take time away. And so when this happened, it was obviously a lot of stress. But I do realize that I had to just wind down. This is one of those like maybe it was meant to be, right? Maybe meant to be for this way for me. So not being around a job where I had to like constantly do things, constantly report to people, constantly, felt like I was just sucked into this like just the life was just draining out of me. My my family saw this. I feel like I was depressed just from like sides of my family, but also from work. And then it just kind of felt like it was more from work than the family. And then just things happened, just like, oh, I needed something, and then that happened. So, after time passed, I started to, and I feel like I've been going through this for a while, but just I'm trying to go fast forward as much as possible to the actual story. So, one day, when I taking time away from being away from the job or those stresses, concentrating on family, and I had a little bit of enough cushion for money so that I didn't have to worry too much about money at the time. My wife at the time was at a job, so she wasn't here at that time, but my kids were. Uh, no, just to give you an idea, I'm sure you already know about me being in. I know these are just labels, but just in case if those matter to you, being like type of an empath, like I'm usually like a nice person, so I'm not normally an ass or anything like that. Unless I'm also like I guess what I call a spiritual Buddhist. Like I was one of those people who I'm not purposely trying to be an ass to anyone, not at all. It was just one of those like, if someone's like, bad, to me type of thing. Um, there's only times when that thing, type of stuff happens. Well, I never, man, when you see movies, when you see stuff on TV, you start to get numb. Like when you start seeing people die, when you start seeing people, just dying, and you get to a point where you're like, not like you don't care. Maybe if it's because I'm a guy and I've seen other movies and random stuff where it's just like, I realize it's an ugly place. But I never really got sad when I heard when people died regarding people that weren't family. Just when it was like, oh, that sucks, like, oh, that's, poor them, that sucks. But that's it. I was, be on my day, right? Be all happy go lucky. And I used to, I used to smoke too. I used to medically needed to smoke medicinal marijuana, and it got to be to a point where I felt like once I've been able to deal with that, I still used it just because it was a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or it ends in Y, a day that ends in Y, right? And I tell you that too because it's also important about everything. Or all this is important. I know you're like, wow, this guy's going sideways with many things, but this is all important. As I'm, you know, I don't want to say like I was a jerk, but there's times when there's only been times I heard when certain celebrities have died, I was actually truly sad for like a while. I've never been sad on anything, and this is important to the story because I there's a story that has to do with a gentleman in Chicago. He was a security guard, and this person I feel like helped ignite something in me. And there's also something else that I've told you I only could share part of my story because my story was also intertwines with someone else's, and I can only do so much on this story, and I can only shine so much light on that particular subject. Well, let's just say that I was about to go and do my what I call take some medicine, for myself. But my kids were around, and I didn't want to like necessarily get like just enough where I was able to deal with certain stresses, and just be good. Just it's hard to explain that because unless you're someone who does it or someone who drinks, you might know what that's like of just maybe having like one wine or something or one beer, not like getting hammered, just something just to kind of just mellow out in a sense. And plus, too, I feel like it helps out too. Like when you are helping out with playing around with kids and stuff, kind of makes everything more interesting. For them, and happy that like their dad's happy too. And just enjoying the moment, right? So, uh, I was about to go partake, if you will. I was going to go into the restroom, but before I did, I saw something on my feed of like the news, and I normally don't really like to get into those, but then I something just told me to look. Like it was weird. Like I didn't realize there was something in me that told me to look at the story. So there's a gentleman by name Jamel Robertson. The thing is that it was on the Chicago Tribune Times, and this story he was a security guard, And it's very important that I say this. You need to know cosmic surface. I don't care about race or anything like that, but I only tell you because it's important to the story. Because it's unfortunate that, oh man, there's freaking assholes. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but just just people out there that are just horrible that do this about race. So this guy, is African American, and this is in Chicago, and he was a security guard. Now he was at a nightclub, and he was being security guard for this nightclub. Something happened where like this guy, another gentleman, I don't know what race this gentleman is. It's not really important because you'll know why this story will be important. But a gunshot broke out, and a fight kind of broke out. This guy was able to subdue the bad guy, if you will, this gentleman, Jamel Robertson. He pinned this guy down, just like how you would, if you were the good guy or being that good cop, or that one time you finally took down the bad guy, and waited for the cops to come and be like, yes, I got the perp, or whatever they call him, and this guy, from my understanding, he was wearing, I know there's this kind of controversy if he was wearing this, but from my understanding, he was wearing security gear that showed that he was security. The cops came. They didn't think he was the security guard. They immediately opened fire and shot at him, and this guy died. Uh, man, fuck, man. So this guy, when I started, peeling back the curtain a little bit more about the story, this guy has no family. This guy, is trying to. I think he is a church-going person, which doesn't. I know it doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't mean that someone's better or anything like that. But just if it matters to you, just let you know, this guy at least tries to do good with his community. So he's a church person. Took down the perp, and when I looked back, in the story, it was saying that this guy, he was wanting to become a cop. He would just want to be security, just to do a dead end job. He was being security because sometimes that happens. I don't know if you know that. Sometimes if you're in the military, it also helps out too. But if you're doing security work, sometimes you got to do that to help out, to do like being a cop and whatnot too. That also helps your chances. So he actually wanted to become a cop, and he was in, like, I believe he got like a letter recently that said he was going to be like enrolled in the academy type of thing, and he was just kind of just doing his normal like job, in a sense of just being at the security for the time. And it's like ironic. The one thing that he wanted to become, he got killed by the very same people that he wanted to trust his life with. And of course, they shot and killed him because they thought, oh, a black guy, this is something has to do with, he's the perp bad guy, let's kill him. Everyone everyone at the club were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, this guy, he's the good guy. Like, what are you doing? This story did something to me. I just stopped. I stopped what I was doing. I don't want my kids to see me. Not that I'm like I feel like I'm a octopus Y, if you know what I'm saying. I don't want to degrade any woman, by saying that, But I felt like, as guys say, to each other, to kind of make them feel emasculated, I didn't feel like a wuss, if you will. And I don't want to do that and cry in front of my kids for reading something online. I don't want to get them scared. So like, oh, daddy's gonna, be in the bathroom. I'm gonna I'll be right back. I'm gonna take some medicine or something. I was crying, and as soon as I got in the bathroom, put on the fan in the bathroom, and I just started crying. I bawled so hard. I never, I don't want to say I never bawled like this, but it was just, I cried so hard. Like this overwhelming amount of emotion came down to me, and like, this guy was so innocent. He wanted to become a cop. He wanted to do the one thing and finally take down the bad guy. Finally takes down the bad guy, and look, lo and behold, what happens? He gets shot by cops. And if you're a cop, much love to you. Archangel Michael, protection. 911, all that stuff. I believe in that. So not every cop's bad. I don't believe that every cop's horrible or anything like that. It was just one of those things where I feel that, man, I just feel that sometimes people have no idea, what's going on, and not until you start getting to these moments, of life where you're like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened, and I couldn't believe, this happened, and it started doing something to me. It started shaking me inside. It started making me feel like I never felt bad for someone before. I never felt that, where this emotion was, that I just started crying so hard. My heart, like everything, just started shaking. Like I don't know what was happening to me, but when I hear other people talk about their spiritual awakening story, I'm like always waiting for this one moment. Now, whether or not they feel scared to say it, which that's okay, because what I'm about to tell you changed my life. But every time I try to hear someone's spiritual awakening story, I'm like trying to wait for this moment, this one thing. And I'm like seeing if that happened to them, that happened to me. And that doesn't mean anyone's better story or anything like that. I was just always waiting just to be like, oh, okay, well then yes, that's what I'm going through. Something else happened. Something was shaking inside me. I was crying so hard. Now, I know I was breathing because I was still alive, or at least I thought. I started shaking. My heart started like just moving faster. And I don't know what happened. Now, I can't say I had a heart attack because when you see it on TV, people start shutting down their bodies and start shaking and whatnot. So I can't tell you that I had that. I can tell you my heart was shaking. I can tell you that like everything felt like it stopped. Everything that I'm about to tell you. So, oh God, I'm feeling all these like stuff around me. Sorry. Everything that happened to me, it could have been in a matter of seconds, but it felt like forever where I was in this room. Now, I've been in this bathroom many times, obviously, for other things. So I know exactly how the light is. Something happened to me where I just started shaking and I felt this tremendous pressure, this just pressure, just pushing me down to the ground, like to be on my knees. Now, in my Buddhist practice, I've been on my knees, sometimes, to do my prayers and whatnot. Um, and I've been on my knee to propose to my wife, one time, and my wife at the time, and it was one of these things where when it comes to like people and talking about God and whatnot, like I never get down on my knees for anyone, if you will. And I work out, so not saying like, "Ooh, look at me, I'm so strong," but I know the difference of having weight on your back and what I felt. This was something I never had much pressure. It was as if you thought you can have like doing leg squats of like 10,000 pounds or something. Like, what are you doing? It was all of a sudden bam, like just pushing me down. It was just like push me down. This thing that happened inside me, like the room got bright orange, like amber to gold light. It pushed me down to my knees. Both my left knee started getting tired, or like it was just so weak. I don't even know how to describe it. That it felt down that I just got down on one knee. My right knee got so weak I couldn't even stand up that I went down on my second knee. So now both knees were on the ground. I don't know why, but my hands started coming up. Holy shit. Oh my God, this is so fucking weird right now. My hands started going to, oh my God, I'm feeling it right now. My hands were up in the air with that light that you just saw. Oh my God. Woo! And I felt like the touch inside me. Like I knew what this was. This was like I never felt this ever in my life. Ever. Ever in my life. I never felt this in my life. I've had like my own experiences of life, of changing. Nothing like this ever happened to me, ever in my life. I felt like I was in a different place. The whole room was so bright. It was almost hard to see, as if the sun was directly in my bathroom. I couldn't see. It was so bright. And then I started to see, as in something else was there. I like automatically had this. My, I can share this part. My best friend's little brother was in a car accident. I'm guided to not share certain things that happened to him or things that's happened to the family, but I can't tell you that. But I am guided to tell you this. He's been in a coma for a long time. Buddy, come back. I just want to say that, come back. But he's been in a coma for a long time, and at that moment when everything just went down and the room was gold, I felt like he was just like kind of like walking as if he was just like sauntering in the room, like just for a second. And he looked at me and was like, "Oh, is that what's wrong with you, Ray?" And he went like this in my head and went like yoink, like took something out of my head. This mental block that I've had in my head that I know you guys heard in my stories before, that something bad happened to me in my past, which I'll explain, but I'm just trying to keep everything short in this story. You know what, fuck it. I've had something bad happen to me, and nothing that should happen to a little kid. And I know some people believe in these spiritual contracts or whatever the fuck this is. It's like certain things you may ask for in this life, but let's just say something like this shouldn't happen to a kid. Obviously, you can probably know where I'm going to get at when I say something bad happened to a kid. I mean, it could be anything, right? But let's just keep it simple, so I don't want to relive this past. Something happened, right? And when that happened, I asked for this universe and for my religion to say, I want to block. Like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. And I was such a young age of people telling me things that I've been seeing, things that like that's been happening, and for this particular event to happen, I was like, I was done. Like I was done. I wanted a block, and then from there, it felt like there was this like awareness of like, okay, things were happening to me as I grew up, and things were happening to me, and at that time, I felt like, okay, that's that. Well, my best friend's little brother went yoink, literally just like that, and that was it. That was like one of the last few like full feelings. I know it was him. Like I just knew it was him, and he was like yoink, and just walked away. And he's like, "Oh, is that what's wrong with you, Ray?" And that's what's been going on all this time, and just walked away. like what's going on? Like what's going on with me right now? My hands were up. I'm like, oh God. Like my hand was up like this. I'm like, no, like I can't. Like I just had this thing of like, oh my God, like things were happening to me at that moment in time. Like, oh my God. I'm feeling it now. Universe, my angels, thank you so much. Oh my God. Sorry, I don't want to be like a wreck, but this is one of those things where I was afraid to talk about, and I feel like I'm able to share this now. Thank you. Oh God. So when this happened, I felt like my life just flashed forward. Everything just, like everything just like zipped in my head of everything, of knowledge of life, knowledge of creation, knowledge of how we got here, why we are here, why I'm doing here, my past lives, my future lives, things that have been like known in my past of what happened, of like just everything that became clear of the blockage that happened to me, of things that happened that couldn't explain to me. Everything was like a really quick fast forward, rewind kind of thing, of like in my head just like replaying everything. And then like, I felt like I was back. I was in this room with, I'm just going to fucking say it. I was with the room with creation, my higher self, creation, whatever you want to call this thing. I was in the room. And I felt like it was no joke. The one thing I can tell you, it was like Neo in the Matrix, and he was talking to the architect, but it wasn't the architect. It was it was creation in itself. It was a beautiful experience. This feeling, that I had inside in my chest, was a huge love. It was the best love I've ever had. I have kids. I tell them how much I love them. I had love from my parents to be able to show me what it's like to give love to my kids. I've had my brother, I love him to death. I love my sister to death. They love me to death. At the time, I loved my wife to death. Like, I love my friends to death. I've never felt or could give this kind of love to anyone in my entire life that I felt in that room, that felt like it was there for minutes, but I probably was there for literally seconds. All this thing that happened inside, like, there's no way. There's no way. Like, what is this? I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of this shit. Like, I'm a Buddhist. Like, I feel like we're supposed to be our own gods. We have our own inner strength from within. Like we try to find that light within to help us do our life. I was a kid who saw in the movies of when they talked about God, they had this thing of like people being, showing this light, in this clouds. And I'm like, is that what God is? A cloud and this light and, this old man or whatever this thing showing lightning bolts or whatever the, F this is. Like, is that what God is? Like, well, what's going on? I don't know what creation is. Like, I thought this is like crazy talk. Like, I thought when people talk about God, I'm like, why would you care for a God who lets women get raped, lets people live in poverty, like people who try to be good? Like, what kind of effed up shit is this? How could you believe this? How could you sit here and like I see people cheat on people that believe in God, people have these crosses that do horrible things, and they can just say, oh well, say 5 Hail Marys and you're fucking good. Like, that's bullshit. I was like, no, fuck that, man. Like, this is crap. Like, this can't be. Like, who the fuck would want to believe in this shit? I was that person that fucking said Jesus Christ can suck my dick. Like, I said that. I said there's no such thing as God. This is crap. This is ugh, like it had to be me. It had to be me. As in, like, I had to experience this in my life. One of the many things I saw, which I will share to you in other videos if I feel guided and I'm allowed to, but let's just say, like, everything was like a rewind. One of my past lives, I was with this person, Jesus. Like, I realized this was a real person. I had this realization, which I'm spoiler alert for some and people who don't know, and my apologies. He was kind of like Buddha. He was kind of like all the ascended masters. He just had a touch of reality and realizing he was close in oneness to creation. Back in the day, they didn't know what to call it. They didn't know what that stuff was. He obviously felt from other people, someone who was able, like a philosopher, is like someone who was able to show them like the way. So yes, he was a great person to be able to show them that. Obviously, certain other things that may have happened and whatever people on blur the lines is another thing. But for me, what I was shown, what he showed me, and also this creation or creator, I was like rewound back in time. It made me feel like, and I felt I had this weird identity crisis, like I was Jesus, because, and I know I'm not, I'm just giving you guys an idea, because like he made me feel like I was him. Like I was going through certain things. I was in a room with this woman, this beautiful woman who was taking care of my feet, putting like rose water on my feet. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, what is this? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? It was like other people talking to me saying like, why are you doing this? Then all of a sudden it was like weird. It was like as if I was Jesus, like, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, poof, like looked in and was like seeing this happen as well. Like as if I like my auric self looking down at myself and like sitting here like saying like why are you doing this, what's happening, and like saying that, hey, this is something that I have to do, this is something that's going to show other people that there's other bigger things that are in this world than me, and this is something that I need to do in my sacrifice. And it was kind of a weird experience. I'm like, no, like this can't be, like I'm not Jesus. What the hell's going on? Then all of a sudden, bam! I was like someone else, like one of his like friends, or I don't know if they call him disciple. I don't know. I didn't grow up Christian or anything like that, so I don't know. But I was like one of his friends or something, and just seeing like, no, what are you doing? You can't be doing this like at all. Like that's horrible. Don't ever do this. And at the same time, like, oh god, whew, at this time, like you gotta be kidding me. Like, don't do this. Do whatever you're doing. Don't do this. Then all of a sudden, like, as one of his friends, I was watching everything happen from the crucifixion to everything. Like, not wondering, like, what is going on? What's happening? And then, boom, I get zapped into something else. Like, I mean, like, taken back in time of different, like, past lives and past things of existences, trying to figure out what's going on in this life. I started seeing other things, which I didn't want to get at, because there's so much more that I wanted to tell you. When this happened, ooh, you know what? I may even have to like stop the story and just go back, but I'm just going to try to see if I can do this all the way through. So as I was going through this experience, I'm like, oh, I can't believe what's happening to me. I'm not the type of person to believe in God. Like, why am I being shown this? Like, who the f am I? Like, I don't understand this. Like, I don't get it. And then this voice, this presence, this being in front of me was saying, I'm giving you another chance. Like, this is it. Like, this is what you want. And in my egotistic self, I was like, if I'm going back, you're gonna give me back and you're gonna help me out with everything. And it was like done deal, kind of like shaking on it kind of thing. It was this thing that like I felt like I had this other chance of life. I felt I was reborn. I felt I had this, what I realized is a spiritual awakening. And I don't know if that's everyone's story of this spiritual awakening. I heard some people talk about like they feel like they had this Jesus moment or coming to Jesus moment. I don't even know. Like I said, I don't know how to explain that, but I just can tell you those times that I had in those stories. And I feel like I'll be telling you more of these stories and these past lives stories, going forward. But this is one of those things that trust me, I wanted to tell you this on day one, but I don't want to come being some weird person, because I feel like it had to be me, because I was someone that didn't believe. It was easier for maybe for me because I started once I had this spiritual awakening and started to realize stuff, and that me being Buddhist helped out too because it was able to get me in touch. Like all this time when I was a kid, I kept looking through my third eye when I was doing my prayers because I was short and I had to look up all the time just to kind of help, looking with that muscle. Didn't realize it. My pineal gland opened up, my kundalini activated, all this stuff started happening to me all at once. I started to realize what this was, this feeling was, this energy just poof, just shot up. Like everything happened when I felt like that gold light around me. It was just an awesome, loving feeling. It was nothing but unconditional love. I started to understand what these things of going through and about other people, about how people who are gay and how everyone says like, oh, this is wrong and bad and all this stuff. And I'm like, God or this universe, whatever you want to call it, is all love. So trust me, if you are, God loves you regardless because you're one of her beings on this planet. Loves you. Does not matter what other people say. You have to realize people corrupt. This time back in the day when people didn't understand all this religion and all this things, that it was given to men. Men are corrupt, unfortunately. I'm a guy. People are corrupt at times. They wanted to have power to themselves. That's what I was shown. Woo! So what I was shown was that people have power. They kind of like corrupt things to make it work for their while, right? Work their while, not for what other things should be. And that's what's horrible about this world. So, for you who are going through it, just let you know, like I always felt like if there was a God and I'm Buddhist and God, if I'm one of its creations, God would still love me because I'm a Buddhist and that's what makes me happy and God wants me to be happy, right? Regardless, unconditional love, right? Not saying I have to like go and kill people and kill its creation or anything. Obviously, there's certain like rules to this thing, but regards to that, God just wants everlasting like people to feel that loveness, to share this kind of love, and just to let you guys know, and this comic surfers out there, like it's all about love, and that's where all this power comes from. That's all this where the universe showed to me. Now there was a lot of other things, esoteric things, other things I can tell you about. Like example, after this happened, I got into what a lot of Buddhists called enlightenment. I had this understanding of this enlightenment, and then I had this thing of like this realization of enlightenment to know that I was already been enlightened this whole time, and that when this thing happened to me, it just made me realize that I was. Because when you're enlightened, no one celebrates this party for you like when you turn 21 or you turn 18, you got all these other like cool things you could do now. It was not one of those like, hey, let's throw a party, he's now enlightened. You don't really know. You have to have this sense about you. You start to have this awareness. You start to realize these things that I was already enlightened this whole time. But I had that block that happened to me that made me kind of just feel like none of this was real. Everything I was going through was bullshit. Don't believe in this. Don't believe in that. And even with myself, I love my Buddhist practice, but at the same time, I realized there's certain things about that too. I had this realization that they're all right. It's not like one ring to rule them all or one religion that has to be, but there's gods plural and also like our universe or whatever you want to call it. There's Gaia, Mother Earth, there's gods plural, and then there's like the universe or creation, source, energy, wherever you want to call it. That's beautiful. Woo! In this life, and that's part of it. That's part of everything that's been going on, and that's what's been on my mind a lot lately, and that's what's in a sense gone through my spiritual awakening. When that happened, I had this enlightened stage. Afterwards, I got my kids, and I told my wife what happened. She was slightly freaked out, but kind of like realized because she had this kind of knowing about this kind of stuff beforehand, so she kind of knew a little bit was going on. But I'll tell you, for about 3 weeks, I was still in this moment of loving everything pure. Like when people